So tonight we're talking about the fast phobia cure, also known as the rewind technique, and how to help you overcome anxiety. I have a video here on YouTube. One of my more popular videos is for PTSD and trauma. You can find a link to it in the description below. It uses the rewind technique. It uses what is also known in NLP as the fast phobia cure, but it does it hypnotically. So you enter a state of trance. From that state of relaxation, you can allow your mind to process and release traumatic memories. So tonight, as I said, I'm going to be talking about the NLP version of this technique, which is called the fast phobia cure. And it's not just for phobias, it can also be used for anxiety. So the reason it works is because traumatic memories carry more weight, more emotional charge than ordinary memories. If you're walking through the jungle, you hear a rustle in the bushes, you go and have a look, there's a big tiger there. You need to remember next time you're in that situation and you hear that rustle in the bushes, you need to remember that there might be a tiger there, so you don't go and have a look. So for that reason, traumatic memory has more, as I said, emotional weight, more emotional charge than an ordinary memory. And believed that it's stored in the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, and the amygdala can react to situations before the thinking part of your brain has a chance to even know what's going on. All of the information your senses are taking in are sent through that part of your brain before they reach the thinking part of your brain. So someone with, say, PTSD, they may experience a smell or a sound that reminds them of the activating event, and then they flash back to that activating event. They relive it. So phobias are often caused by traumatic events. If you're a small child and you get scratched by a cat or something, you may develop fear of cats. If you get into trouble in the swimming pool or whatever, you may develop a fear of water. And as you'll have heard me talk about before, anxiety is a conditioned response caused by being repeatedly exposed to things that cause you fear. So we can also use the rewind technique to help you overcome anxiety. So that is everything I think I wanted to say. Let me check my notes. So yeah, to summarize, when you experience a traumatic or high stress event, your brain is going to encode it like a high definition film or movie if you're not British. And then you're going to develop associations with that trauma. Those things are going to cause you to flashback, to relive that event. Talking therapy, one of the criticisms of talking therapy is when you talk about a trauma, you're actually firing the same neural pathways that you were firing when you experienced the trauma. So talking about trauma can actually make it worse. It's going to keep those neural pathways alive. It's going to keep the traumatic event live in your mind. So hypnotherapy can be a very effective way to overcome trauma because you don't need to think about it. And as I said, if you have a trauma, you have a phobia, you can try the rewind technique, which you'll find linked to in the description. We also have the stop blushing video on which I use the same technique. Anyway, the fast phobia cure for anxiety. So what you want to do, you want to think of the first time you experienced the anxiety, the worst time you experienced the anxiety, and the last time you experienced the anxiety or panic attack. The first time you had a panic attack, the worst panic attack you had, the last time you had a panic attack. And with the fast phobia cure and the rewind technique, you don't need to relive the trauma. You're going to be dissociated from the event. You're going to be watching yourself, watching the event. So you're not going to relive the event, but your mind is still going to process the traumatic memory. It's going to be moved from the emotional part of your brain. It's going to be processed as an ordinary memory. So make yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath in all the way down into your stomach. Breathing out with a big sigh. And relaxation is also very powerful. When you recall a memory, the memory will change based on your emotional state when you remember it. So if you're going for talk therapy and you're getting upset, you're crying, you're remembering traumatic memories, again, you're going to be keeping those neural pathways alive. You're going to be keeping that event live in your mind. So taking some deep breaths in, breathing out of a big sigh, allowing yourself to begin to relax. When you're ready, you can allow your eyes to relax, let go. So breathing deep. I want you to imagine yourself entering a movie theatre or cinema. In the cinema or the movie theatre, they have those chairs with the fold down seat. I want you to imagine yourself settling back in one of them. Comfiest. That's right, the comfiest theatre seat you've ever sat in. And up the distance is a cinema screen. Looking at that screen. Like your private theatre. No one else around, it's only you. Drifting up out of that version of you that's relaxing there, drifting up, looking back, noticing how relaxed you look, how calm you look. Up and standing next to that movie screen, looking back at the you that's just sitting in that chair. Okay, noticing how relaxed, how comfortable and calm you look. Now, from this state, I'd like you to think of a calm time before that event, then a calm time after the event. That calm time could be all the way up to now. The version of you that's stood next to that screen is looking at the version of you sitting in that chair. Version of you that's sitting in that chair, watching that old scene play out, going from a calm point at the beginning to a calm point at the end. In this place, you have your own remote control. You can control what's playing out on that screen in that fit. What I want you to do, I want you to pause that old scene at the calm point at the end. Version of you that stood next to that screen is going to drift up through space and time. They're going to connect that version of you in the calm point at the end of that old screen, that old scene. And then the version of you that's sitting in that chair is going to press the rewind button on that remote control, rewinding back through that old scene, from the calm point at the beginning to the calm point at the end, and then pausing at that calm point at the beginning. Doing that now, rewinding. When you rewind back, old scenes, if you're old enough, you might remember on the old VHS tapes, voices would get funny, screen would get crackly, and then pausing at that calm point at the beginning. Again, the version of you that's paused at that calm point at the beginning, drifting up through space and time, standing next to that screen, looking at the version of you that's sitting in that chair, noticing how relaxed the version of you that's sitting in that chair looks. Now, the version of you that's sitting in that chair is going to press the fast forward button on that remote control. Fast forwarding from the calm point at the beginning to the calm point at the end, and then pausing at the calm point at the end. Doing that now, fast forwarding through that old scene. Again, when you fast forward on those old VHS tapes, the voices get funny. Maybe you can imagine people sounding like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. The picture gets all crackly, all kinds of interference, and then pausing at that calm point. So that calm point at the end of that old scene. Version of you that stood next to that screen, drifting up through space and time, once again connecting with the version of you that's paused at the end of that old scene. So feeling calm and relaxed. And then rewinding back through that old scene, going back like a flash this time, pressing the fast rewind button on that remote control, all the way from the calm point at the end to the calm point at the beginning, pausing at that calm point at the beginning. Version of you that's in that calm point, drifting up through space and time, standing next to the old the old cinema screen, looking at the version of you sitting in that chair. Then the version of you sitting in that chair is going to press the fast forward button on that remote control. Or fast rewind button on that remote. Rewinding back like sorry, even quicker than before. All the way from the calm point at the end to the calm point at the beginning. Pausing in at that calm point at the beginning. Feeling calm, feeling relaxed, feeling totally at ease. And once again, drifting up through space and time, standing next to that TV screen, or that cinema screen. Looking at that version of you that's sitting in that chair, watching that old scene play out. Noticing how comfortable that version of you sitting in that chair looks, how calm, how relaxed. When you're ready, you can open your eyes coming all the way back to the here and now. So, as I said, in NLP, this is called the fast phobia cure. When done hypnotically, it can be known as the rewind technique. And you can find a link to this video for trauma and PTSD, or my video for trauma and PTSD, in the description below. So you can use this not just for phobias, you can use it for traumatic memories, you can use it for anxiety if there's an event that you went through recently that you found particularly anxiety inducing. You can use it on that. If you're using it on a phobia, as I said at the beginning, you want to use it for the first time you experience that fear, the worst time you experience that fear, and the last time you experienced that fear. So, let me know what you think. Let me know how that technique has worked for you in the comments below. What you can also do, I should have mentioned at the beginning, you can take a SUD score. Before you use the technique, you can rate your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not too bad, 10 being terrible. And then once you've used your technique, you can again take that SUD score, 1 being not too bad, 10 being terrible, noticing how that SUD score has gone down. And if your SUD score has gone down, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions, comments about the rewind technique. Let me know what kind of things you'd like me to do live. So, yeah, the rapid forward and backward motion that we use when we do that technique, that's kind of like EMDR, like eye movement desensitization therapy, which is very effective for trauma and anxiety. And then there's the relaxation, as I said, when you recall a memory, you change the memory based on your emotional state. So you can desensitize traumatic memories by recalling them from a state of relaxation. And then there's the dissociation, watching yourself, which means you don't need to relive any kind of negative memories or traumas. You can Just observe yourself. That version of you that's sitting in that cinema, watching that screen. So yeah, I think that's everything that we were going to cover tonight. Check the description for links. Visit my website, markstubbles.com, where you can download my free depression and anxiety and inner child healing workbooks. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this technique, what you thought of tonight's live stream. Thank you for watching, and good night.